just going to read a few quick poems from my new book called The Better Kiss. It's being launched this Saturday afternoon in Sarnia at John's Restaurant, and the London launch will be on June the 10th at the Root Cellar Organic Cafe. This first poem is called Ryan Gosling, who happened to be born in London, Ontario. This book is a collection of mostly love poems. A lot of them are unrequited love, love between two friends that can never be anything more. Ryan Gosling. When you mentioned how hot you thought Ryan Gosling was, it wasn't to make me jealous or envious of his looks, though of course life would be easier if I had them. It was to display your belief in the rule of exceptions, that he would be able to take you out of your aura of celibacy, your prudish disdain of sexy talk, your vow to read Anna Karenina from cover to cover, of never caressing yourself in a stimulating way or leaping in front of a speeding train you once said you'd do as a joke. I wrote this next poem because I notice whenever I see like old paintings of the 1700s, 1800s, most of the males are wearing these white wigs. They're kind of corny, but they wore white wigs. So I wrote a poem called White Wigs. In the 18th century, men who could afford them wore white wigs. Presidents and noblemen, shopkeepers and servants, Baroque musicians playing sonatas for an audience, the males applauding, all crowned in white wigs. I pity the ones with glorious red curls, blonde flowing manes, and those who were 30 and yet to gray, all forced by social norms to don the look of the worn and the aged. No one knowing if they might be bald, had dandruff, or were hiding some other follicle disaster. Maybe one of them having a chance encounter with a beautiful woman, her slender, supple fingers fondling his fake and lengthy hair, and he'd never know how it felt. Back to the love poems. In this case, another unrequited love poem. It's called Miracle. Tonight, I will ask you to marry me. You will surely say I am mad, in the British sense of the word, and then laugh off my promise to love and commit, as I must have stopped over at the pub and had a few too many before our coffee date on this insignificant, middle-of-the-week kind of evening. But this day is anything but ordinary. Look at my hands. They are stained from painting my kitchen the color that is your favorite, even though my eyesight is failing. And I'm convinced that both our God and the birds have given us their blessing as shoots sprouted in my garden overnight from seeds dropped from above. And the weather person on TV said there'd be no rain for the next 7 Saturdays to come. And I'm going to close off with a poem called Coda. I dedicate the poems I'll never write to you and to us, tiring perhaps of coming up with original ways to say love, of finding a miracle in the humdrum, of finding a thesaurus that does the trick. So as for that disheveled old man I passed by on the sidewalk, he'll remain anonymous and his shuffling stay unscribed. I will not imagine him as a sturdy young lad whose heart was cruelly splintered at a high school dance. And the verses on the abandoned house with its peeling paint and missing a few planks veranda? I won't picture the children who may have raced throughout its corridors, or the daughter whose father caught her with her bow on the backyard swing, or the tree branch on which it was fastened. How the birds helped the mother to get up in the morning instead of wishing she hadn't married or even that she were dead. And the one about the loons who sleep standing up, their faces buried in their wings. How uncomfortable that looks to me, and if I'd ever trade the warmth of a bed for a single chance to fly.
I followed his bewitching song, then stood where I found him, breathed in his exotic cologne, felt billowy breath on my skin, listened to his music as it swelled and crashed around me.